Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hey guys, John. It's John. Happy Thursday, and I'm back with Mr. Frank this week.
Yes, indeed. It's all testosterone in the house today. We don't have the ladies with us.
It's a Yig meeting.
Okay.
Somebody need to take over here, so I'm back again, though.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, we're delighted to have you in the house once again, and no shortage of things to talk about in the news.
Oh, firstly, I guess the situation in Texas. I mean, this week Texas
has been tough, but we should talk. We should start off with out of this world stuff.
Okay. So
right, because, and I was trying to explain this to my wife because she's from Asia, and so she's, it's anything to do with science and stuff is like totally out of her realm of comprehension, right? Doesn't know that you just can't go to Mars and walk out of the spaceship and breathe. And I said, no, you can't do that. She goes, well, why do you want to go? I don't get it. So anyways, but this vehicle that they built called Perseverance, it's got to be 10 years or more in the making to produce the vehicle, to test it, to put all the suite of all the different things on there. It even has a helicopter it's going to be carrying with it. It's got microphones. We're going to actually be able to hear the sound of wind and other noises. We can actually hear the sound of the vehicle
did
rolling.
Did you see the first few pictures, actually?
I saw one was like a black and white. Yeah. So it looked pretty cool. And it's got stereoscopic vision. So it's binocular cameras. And so that's kind of neat to see, and it's at human height. So you're going to be seeing the view from the view that a standing person would have.
It's up there right now.
It's on the on the TV screen. So yeah, it's amazing stuff, and it's landing in a crater in the that used to be
full of water.
Full of water.
Like a lake or something.
Yeah.
I believe they're like trying to see if there's like any ancient like
microbial
organisms that
right.
Like, what do you think?
I don't know. I think because this particular rover has the ability to do drilling, and it's got a laser. It's got a lot of things. So I think they're going to have to scratch deeper than the surface to find evidence of previous life. But
it would be interesting if it actually happens. I mean,
it's their theory is about 4.5 billion years ago or so, maybe 3 billion years or so. Mars and Earth were both fairly similar wet planets, and something happened to Mars, and my guess is that it lost its, we have the Van Allen belt, right? And we've got and they think that the engine that drives that might be the fact that we still have a wet molten core. So it's possible that the core of Mars, since it's smaller, may have cooled off. And so it lost its ability to fight off the solar wind and the radiation, and so it stripped away the atmosphere and of course the water. If you were to have a glass of water on Mars, it would just instantly just go to gas.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool to watch. Yeah. So, but I think people are going to go just the same because it's exciting. And the fact that they were able to do it with Curiosity and Perseverance, the same maneuver, the 7 minutes of terror, is just mind-numbingly amazing to me, because that vehicle is just had a straight-on trajectory. It didn't orbit the planet. It just come flying in at 74,000 miles per second, right?
And then it was able to land. I'm like,
right. So they used the atmosphere of Mars is about 1/10 of what it is here on Earth.
Wow.
It's a very slight atmosphere. So it's almost virtually non-existent, but it's an atmosphere. It's too little of an atmosphere to retain life as we know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just enough of an atmosphere to be a bit of a problem when you're trying to land vehicles. Only half of all the vehicles that have attempted a landing have survived. So it's not an easy planet to go to landing wise. And the fact that we were able to do that through the very circuitous route, a method, so they kind of dive bombed into it, utilizing some of the atmosphere as a braking mechanism because it has its own ablative shielding, so slow the vehicle down, and then that portion of the shield would leave, and then it had a series of several motors, about 6 different landing motors, and they would fire those puppies up, and then they got it slowed down to a point where it would hover over the landing site. And the software that it had, a suite of software, is just amazing to me because it has to work autonomously. Mm-hmm. So it took all the high resolution images, so it was able to sync up with where it was supposed to be, where it saw it was, made the necessary corrections, and then hovered over the landing spot, lowered the vehicle on a what they call a sky crane, which is just a set of wires. And then as soon as it got the signal that the wheels had touched the surface, then the wires snap off. I think explosive bolts, but the wires are removed from their connection to the vehicle, and the motorized the powered descent vehicle fires up and flies away to crash another couple miles away from the landing site so it doesn't interfere with the vehicle. That's a lot of things to do, totally autonomous. Wow.
I mean, like
that's just to get there.
Thousands.
Yeah. And you think about it, they had to figure out with the rotation of the planet Mars. They left back in July. So to be able to do the math to figure out where the planet was going to be come February 18th, 2021, when they left on July, 10, whenever that was.
And to see like what everything's going to be like and then do that appropriately. And I'm just,
wow, stunning. I mean, just that alone, game over. I'm happy.
And you still have to get there.
Yeah. And so they're there. They landed safely. So I think after a few weeks, they're going to drop the from the underbelly of this vehicle is a little helicopter, weighs about 4 pounds, and it's got lithium-ion batteries, and it's totally solar powered. It gives you 90 seconds, I think, of flight or so. And so the idea is that it'll not very soon, but someday in the not too distant future, the rover will deposit the helicopter, and then it'll roll away to a safe distance, and then the helicopter will test itself. And so that'll be kind of neat. And the helicopter will be able to do video footage of the rover. Wow. And the landscape, and then the rover will be able in kind do the same thing too, to watch the helicopter in flight. If that helicopter is successful, and I think it probably will be, and it's so there's 2 dynamics you need to have a successful helicopter. You have to have a very light lifting body, So it's only weighs 4 pounds. And the propellers, and it's a twin rotor helicopter.
Okay.
Because there's not a lot of air on the surface, so they need to work
something.
with that as much of that air as they can. So twin rotors, then they have to move extremely fast. That's why you only get a few seconds of good flight. And wow, if that's successful, then that proves that they may be able to use similar devices going forward for other things. Like just for carrying supplies, even if they're small, light things, it's like, go fetch me my wrench, but they can build bigger ones but yeah, that proves that this is just to prove the technology.
And this is done by NASA, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
JPL and NASA.
It has been a while since I heard them.
Yeah. So pretty exciting. In the suite of testing materials, they'll actually be able to bore holes into the Martian surface and then and take pristine samples, uncontaminated pristine samples of the Martian material, put it in sealed tubes, and then deposit them later to be retrieved by future missions and then brought back to Earth for more detailed examination. Yeah. Wow.
It's interesting. It's like 100 steps.
Out of this world stuff. But so they had to, after they did Curiosity, they said, okay, we got to step up our game. So they've improved the wheels. There were some issues on the previous rover missions where the wheels got pretty well beat up rolling on the Martian surface. So this is a very robust, very stout vehicle. And it's designed to go more autonomous than the previous vehicles. Its software is much more intuitive.
Okay.
And so it'll be able to, they'll just kind of give it some direction and then let it go. And it can drive faster now than the previous rovers could, because it's going to be really working on its own. I mean, wow.
It's just, yeah, that is crazy.
Right. Just to be in, could you imagine being inside a JPL when it landed? Those people were probably, because 10 years they've been working to make this happen. And then the 7 months or so of it, 7 to 9 months of travel time just to get there. And then they got the 7 minutes of terror as it's going through the atmosphere. Wow. So, but it's, something to aim for if you're a student and here's the thing to keep in mind. The individual, the first man and or woman to land on Mars is already alive today. It's going to happen within your lifetime. That's pretty amazing.
It's crazy.
Right? So that's all right. Well, that's good stuff. Can you tell I'm animated about it?
Yes, I can tell you're very animated. It's something to be excited about, though, because for me personally, I'm kind of visualizing in my head. So I'm just seeing an entire thing just moving throughout space. I'm like, things can go wrong there too. I'm just and then it has to slow down. It has to speed up, do everything perfectly. Meanwhile, there's 10 years worth of code and everything, just resources and everything. And just, it can go wrong, but everything went right. It even has a little helicopter.
Right?
Just things you never think about.
The microphone was a big deal. So a few days ago, they turned the microphone on about a week or so back. It just did. Of course, you don't hear anything in space because there's no air. But they did hear sound because the onboard pumps make the vibration in the metallurgy of the vehicle. So they can actually hear the pumps working because there's circulatory pumps to keep the vehicle from getting too hot or too cold, even in the transit of space. And they could hear that. So that's pretty cool. That's the first sound from space, really. of that sort. So that's pretty cool. We do have some audio that the Russians or the Soviets did when they landed on Jupiter. Or was it Venus? Was it? Yeah, I forget. One of the Soviet missions, and they had landed several vehicles on. I think maybe it was Venus. No, maybe Jupiter. Yeah, I think, but it's at the planet where everything is like there's a lot of pressure, air pressure. I think it's Jupiter.
Yeah, I'm not the person to ask.
No. Anyways, but the vehicles only last about a fairly short amount of time because of the extreme
Pressure.
atmospheric pressure. Yeah. So, but yeah, and the one vehicle did have a microphone, so that you can actually hear sound
I
from
wonder when
another
that's
planet.
going to release then. Just like everything that's happening on Mars, just like all that. It'll be fun to watch and listen to because I mean, it's Mars.
Yeah, I mean, Mars is a lot interesting in what's going on in the world today. Mars is a lot more interesting right now. I think it's positive escapism. I think because we all want a better world for us here on Earth, but in the meantime, developing these technologies may help us to build a better Earth here too. And I think there's a good yin and yang of that. Learning how to do the problem solving to do the task makes it so that we can maybe do some problem solving here as well.
I agree.
Yeah, I like it. So what do you got going on? So you wanted to talk about Texas, right? So the deep freeze?
Oh, yeah. That was, like, personally, from what I've been hearing, it's been pretty hectic. I mean, like, at one point, the windmill started to freeze over, and then they were doing, like, rotational power, I believe it was. And then, like, that alone is a bit scary almost. Because, I mean, like, I understand your entire state's running on, like, wind. I appreciate that, but I mean the idea that it can freeze over is a bit unnerving because like you never think about that,
right?
Like you never think that could possibly freeze.
Well,
yeah, like if you see windmills in like person, you're like,
those things are huge.
Those are humongous, and I mean just like the fact that can freeze is
half of all the and I don't know how many they have, but I imagine there's quite a bit of them out there. It's not like just a handful of them. There's quite a few. And when you got half of them are down because they're frozen, that is not good.
That is really not good.
No. So I think they're kind of going to look at their allocation of resources on how to do a better job going forward. I mean, this may never happen again, but if it does, they should be ready, right? So I think that was a wake-up call to make sure that bad things don't happen. One family has resorted to burning their toddler's toy wooden blocks for firewood. Others are tearing down their wood fences so they can burn that for heat. But they're like 3 days already of no power, no heat. That's not good. And when you got frigid temperatures and some homes, so here's the we probably are not going to have this problem here in Stuart, Florida. But if it gets to be freezing for a long time, turn on your water. The pipes won't freeze. If the water's flowing, it's not going to freeze. When your pipes are closed and water is stagnant and it gets too cold, then it'll freeze and then the pipes burst, and then you got a real problem. So running the water, it doesn't have to be a strong flow.
It can just be a drip.
Right. It just has to be, the valve has to be open. Water has to travel. So if you can do that, I used to live in South Lake Tahoe. And a lot of homes and businesses, cottages, not resorts, but a lot of dwellings were built or designed by architects in South Lake Tahoe. It's a different environment, okay? the architects designed these buildings for sea level dwellings.
That's
What could go wrong? So I worked for a paint store there in South Lake Tahoe, and we were always busy in the fall, going into the winter months when the pipes would burst because people weren't always home to turn off to remedy this. Even if you can go outside and turn the water off from the source, even better. But so there was a lot of drywall work, a lot of painting, a lot of repair work had to be done for like motels and things of that sort. It's like row. So, and to a person, every one of those jobs that we were aware of when there was a failure, it was architecture that was all drawn out from Bay Area architects, and whoops, they forgot to accommodate the fact that they're no longer at sea level. Whoops. So I think now the people that are doing the plumbing work, in Texas, maybe are going to look at that a little bit differently too. Say, let's see how we can do the plumbing a little bit different so that we may not have these problems. Because there's ways you can plumb to eliminate some of those problems. I believe.
I wouldn't know, to be honest.
So we've got about 2 minutes. You want to tease our next segment? You want to talk about Ted Cruz?
Oh,
and he took a hiatus to Cancun.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that when we come back. And what else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about COVID. I got my COVID shot on Friday.
Oh.
Remember, we talked about that last week. So I got my shot. I survived that experience. So we can talk about that. And of course, you can give us a call here in the studio, 220-9788. We'd love to hear from you. And if you've got an anecdotal story to share, we'd love to hear from you. So with that, we will
go to break.
We will indeed. You're listening to WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Treasure Coast Forum, WSTU 1450 Marin County's Heritage Station. We're back with Mr. Bob.
Bob is on the line. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Hey guys, hey, I would like to ask all the listeners out there. There are millions of people like Frank Mezpel that can't afford to go to space camp. If you could contribute to send Frank to space camp. Didn't you go to baseball?
I went to fantasy camp. Yeah.
Yeah, how'd you do? How many home runs did you get?
I didn't get any home runs, but I batted about 250 something, so not too bad, you know.
Wow, who was pitching? Babe Ruth from the grave?
No, I played against other campers, and then we had fantasy day. I actually batted against Frank Tanana, so that was pretty good.
Well, but space camp, that'll be good for you, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm a space cadet.
I know the planet that the Soviets landed on.
It was what, Venus?
Washington, D.C.
Okay.
That was on November 3rd of 2020. I think.
All right, very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Why not? Very good.
And Texas, you know, if you ever been to Palm Springs, when I lived in California, I went there a few times. On the middle of the desert, they have those giant windmills out there. They look like the Mercedes emblem, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like one line down and then a V on the bottom upside down. And yeah, they kill a lot of birds.
Yeah.
They break down all the time. You have to use a helicopter to repair some of them. So
yeah,
it's incredible, you know. But what are you going to do?
It's a crazy world, and I'm a happy guy. It's the best way to look at it. So
hey, I'm really you know, we kind of knew Rush Limbaugh was might have been on his way out. We were hoping for the best, but
right, yeah,
that didn't happen. I got through to him one time.
Did you really? What was that like?
People try for 20 years sometimes. I think I can get through to Bin Laden in a cave before I could get through on that line. And he doesn't take many calls.
Yeah.
You know, he's the only guy who can sit there for 3 hours and do what he did.
Right.
But yeah, so I got through one time, and this was after two big hurricanes in 60 years came through Port St. Lucie.
Right, Francis and Jean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I lost my house, actually, built a new one on the same property. But everything, you know, I told him, I said, he was talking about, you know how he always, if you listen to him, he talks about Rio Linda, which is near Sacramento, where he got his real big start in radio. And Rio Linda, apparently, he says, oh, they're all hippies. You know, it's right by Sacramento. Everybody, you talking about Tahoe? It's I guess it's on the way to Tahoe there by Sacramento. He says people they have their couches and their cars on blocks in the front yard, and they have their washer and dryer on the front porch.
Yeah.
And so in 2004, when we went through those two hurricanes, and then we had the bubble burst on the economy and the housing.
Oh, wait. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was telling him, I said, hey, I called up and I got through, and I said, I consider you a godfather, honorary godfather of my troop, and a lot of our troops probably feel the same way. And I said, that being said, Rush, I said, you know, he started calling Port St. Lucie. He would say, for people in Rio Linda that don't understand this, and he would explain it. Then he added Port St. Lucie because he heard this story about somebody went to a McDonald's in Port St. Lucie and they didn't have any chicken nuggets. And they dialed 911.
I heard that story. Yes.
Yeah, but it was in Fort Pierce.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I told him, I said, look, we've been through 2 hurricanes, now the housing bubble, and now you're calling us Rio Linda East. and you're ruining us. We're already underwater enough with our properties and what the economy.
Yeah.
So I said, you got it wrong to begin with, Rush. I said it was Fort Pierce. It wasn't Port St. Lucie. Port St. Lucie was where 2 robbers went into a CVS, dropped off their pictures of themselves, and then robbed the place. And I said, we're going to sue you. Every person here is going to sue you for 6 figures and snorkel gear. You've got us underwater, Rush. And we had a good time and talked about that. And yeah, so he was good about it, and he was laughing. And at that time, I was one of the webmasters for the Brian and the Judge radio show on Fox Radio, and people were calling in saying, "Is that you, Otis? was that our Otis?" I said, "How'd it go? How did it sound?" I said, "I don't know. I was working." They said, "Oh, you sound like you guys are two good friends," and this and that. And I said, "No, I've been to his house. We went there with the motorcycle club one day, and we were driving around. And I said, 'Hey, let me show you where Rush lives.' And right on the water there in Palm Beach, he's got like 5 properties, 4 guest houses, and his." And they said, "Well, I said, yeah. I said, yeah, we went there. I said that we didn't get in, No, we weren't invited, but
yeah.
It's
nice to know where. Yeah,
he had some amazing security there. There was a guy that came out and started talking to us through one of the gates, and he had a Uzi over his shoulder.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
That's like a real party pleaser, isn't it? It's a real attention getter.
yeah. But I think I might actually talk to his wife, and she pulled out. And it looks like her. And she said, "No, Rush isn't here right now," and this and that, and she's left. And I think it was her wife. From what I've seen from her, he didn't show her a lot, but the one I saw last night, when he got the Medal of Honor, that looked like the nice lady that talked to us, stopped and talked to us, biker gang there. But so that's a shame. I'm going to miss him.
I think, well, I think talk radio, we wouldn't be here right now doing this talk radio live format if it wasn't for Rush Limbaugh. And I think we owe him just a tremendous debt of gratitude for really developing a communications medium that just wasn't being used, and he really did blaze the trail.
Well, he didn't back down. A lot of other people tried what he tried, and then they got too much flack, and they turned into Mitt Romney, So, but no, he was special, and people. I had a lot of friends and family that used to be Democrats, and we would have a lot of arguments. I'd say, I'll bet you, if you listen to him for 1 month, we won't be having these kind of arguments again. And a couple of them did, and they converted. They converted.
Well, the power of persuasion. When you know more about a topic than your opponent on any given issue, you're bound to win the argument.
Well, and Rush, they were always saying, "Well, these are Rush's robots," and this and that, and they just follow him like some kind of cult. And he said, "I never felt that way." He said, "I always knew that I was just saying what other people thought, but nobody else was putting it out there for him. So that was me."
Right.
And so he was like, I wasn't leading this flock. This flock was out there waiting for somebody like me that wouldn't back down and have the guts to talk about it. And that's exactly what I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll let you guys get back to whatever you want. Hey, did you guys ever see? There's one more quick thing.
Sure.
There's a show. I've been
Columbo,
going through some
right?
hard times with family health issues and stuff now,
right.
and just the country in general. Did you ever watch this show on cable called Just for Laughs Gags?
No.
Oh my God! If you can find it on your cable, called Just for Laughs, and then / gags or something. It is the funniest thing. It's from Canada, and these people, what they do, it's like a Canon camera, but a million times funnier. Because what they do, what they invented to pull these gags off on people is just incredible. And the people in Canada can't believe how nice they are when they find out they were fooled.
But, that's good. Yeah. So good sports,
so
in other words.
If you need a good laugh, go to Just for Laughs Gags, and you'll enjoy the hell out of it. And that's all I got to say. I'll let you guys go, and
all right.
Talk to you next week or some other thing.
Yeah, next week will be great, Bob. Thank you so much. Appreciate you calling.
All right, John.
Okay. See you later, buddy.
Bye-bye.
All right. And with that, we're going to take that as our opportunity for our regulation timeout. We encourage you to call. Give us a call here at 220-9788, and we'll be right back.
And we're back from our break. Welcome
Right.
back to WSU 1450.
Righto. All right. So on Rush Limbaugh, there's on Newsmax TV, they said we lost a great one in Rush Limbaugh, David Limbaugh, and Rush Limbaugh's passing. My brother was a real deal. DeSantis had some words to say. Rush Limbaugh was obviously a legend. Hannity had some comments. He said experienced cancel culture often, and he persevered. And former President Trump weighed in, and he had some nice glowing praise also for Rush Limbaugh. So we mourn his passing. He certainly was a quite an intellect, self-taught, and just brilliant, great mind for facts and figures, and he would gladly take on opposing comments and very happily explain where he felt that people that were of a different political persuasion may be wrong, and he explained why in great detail. And he was obviously very successful. He did it for many, many years, many decades. So when you've got that kind of background, it shows that you've not only have the skills and the chops, but he also had a wonderful personality that drew people to him. So so he's going to be sadly missed. So. And so we'll move on with the rest of the show. So Biden unveils a plan to give 11 million illegals U.S. citizenship. How do you feel about that?
Personally, okay, it depends how you take it, because some people are in the stance that the redundant argument, in my opinion, that they're taking our jobs and such, but they're already here and they already have jobs and they're already supporting our economy and such. So just, it makes no sense to kind of remove what's already here, if that makes sense. Like if you eat a slice of bread, you can't just remove it without something like being lost, or if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like you can't take something away when it's already there. And to this extent, I feel like it's benefiting us more than it's kind of making us lose.
So there are people, so the counter argument,
if that makes sense.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. So the counter argument to that is people that do apply for citizenship, they come here illegally and get in line to legally go through the process, are disproportionately they're disaffected potential citizens, because they did everything right. They're waiting in line, and it's a multi-year process to gain your citizenship, depending upon the country you're coming from. And so when somebody jumps the line and gets accepted into citizenship just by virtue of where they come from, it's a bitter pill to swallow when you've been paying your taxes, doing everything right, apply, do all the paperwork, hire a lawyer, and then all of a sudden, a sweep of a pen, somebody who's illegally arrived, been under the radar, and then suddenly they get their citizenship. I mean, that's a bitter pill to swallow.
Bitter pill to swallow, but I mean, you can't help what's already happened.
Right. So the larger issue then becomes when you got caravans of people that are leaving South America and coming here by the tens of thousands. How do you stop that? I mean,
you really can't.
You can't stop that. So these other countries are losing their populations.
Okay.
Right. It's negatively affecting their ability to serve their population when your workforce is no longer there. So that's an issue.
If people are leaving, though. You have to ask why.
Right. So are they bringing the problems with them, or
Depends.
maybe we should just give them the tools to help them stay so that they can build a better country at home.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my first choice. If it's okay to come, all four of my grandparents came from Europe. Okay. All four of them. We went through the whole citizenship process, right? They came on a ship, they went through Ellis Island, and so they came and they worked hard, and their children, and now their grandchildren, and now their great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren are flourishing, taking advantage of the American dream, right? Because what my grandparents came here, they wanted that for us, but they didn't seek anything for themselves. They didn't seek getting, meal cards or they weren't seeking any advantage other than let me in, I'll work hard, I'll raise a good family, and we'll do everything as right as we can. And I think that's a good work ethic, right?
Yes.
It's a noble desire.
Yes.
But a lot of people come here and then they get the food stamps, and they get, all kinds of other benefits just from rolling in the door. None of that came for my family, or, so, and they were able to do it successfully. So I wonder what I'm saying is, do you need to have all these open platters of cookies waiting for folks, or giving them the opportunity? Wonderful. Come on board. But not so much to get all the free ride.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I see where you're going. Well,
right.
Like, you're kind of just, if this happens, you're kind of just giving them
right
help.
Now, if you want to
all the help in the world,
if you want to stay at home, say your South American country, and maybe make that a better place to live. Let's talk about that. What can we do to help you with that?
We're not going to do that, though, in my opinion, most of the time.
Well, yeah, but I think that opportunity should be there.
It's there, but we don't do that.
No. Why? We should ask why.
Governmental corporations mostly. And then most people don't really. We as a society, I believe, want to fix it, but I don't want to necessarily pin it on power. I kind of want to pin it more so on money, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because why would you do something that gets rid of your money? is, I feel like, the philosophy of the philosophy of most people that have like the ability to do something to change it, if that makes sense. Because if you can sell a sneaker at like $200 or like $2,000 and it only costs you $10 to make, you're going to sell it for like $2,000. You're not going to sell it for 10 or like 11 just to make it just enough. You're going to kind of just extort it to the max, and you're not going to really sit back and kind of sell it for $10 or $11, if that makes sense.
Why wouldn't you want to do that? Whoops, we got another caller. Stand by. All right.
Okay.
All right, we got another caller on the line. Go ahead, caller.
Hello. I've been
Hello.
listening intently on and off, and the young man sounds like I used to teach school years ago for 1 year. Okay. But does the young man know that we're actually, the United States is giving money to China as a developing country? We're actually giving them aid.
I'm not surprised. No,
Isn't that absurd?
It's a head scratcher, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
It certainly is. And the other thing is, Joe Biden, President Biden, the other day stated that he's not going to make any statements about the Uyghurs and what China is threatening Hong Kong and Taiwan. He's just going to back away. He's not going to say anything.
Well,
I find that totally absurd.
Well, I understand they had a 30-minute conversation. Do you know what the upshot was of that conversation that President Xi and him?
He apologized like Obama?
No, I don't think so. But I think he did talk about the Biden did show some concern about the human rights issues, I'm told. And he was then told from President Xi to just butt out in so many words.
Yeah. Did you see the video of the Uyghurs on their knees and blindfolded with their hands tied behind them? And guards standing all around?
I've seen a lot of very unfriendly videos like that. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Very unsettling.
Very unsettling. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yes.
So I'm glad I'm old. I just pray for the United States and my grandchildren and so forth.
Right. And how? Where are you from originally?
I grew up on Long Island, and then I lived in Connecticut. I was an avid Rush listener.
Mm-hmm.
My dogs are barking.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to mention,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually talked to Evan one day about this.
Okay.
That Bob Steele. I lived in the Hartford area. I worked for the Hartford Courant for a bunch of years, and I produced a section on Bob Steele's 50th anniversary on air for TIC 1080.
Okay.
Mhm.
Bob Steele, Robert Steele, he showed up to box or something in Hartford.
Oh my
And
goodness.
He stayed and ended up in doing radio, and he's very, very famous. Everybody from Connecticut knows about Bob Steele.
Cool.
Mhm.
Very good.
Matter of fact, Evan quickly Googled him and said, "Oh yeah, there it is." I actually found the section that I produced. I was just a sales manager, and I found it on the internet. I go, "Holy God!" So many years ago.
Right. And once it goes on the internet, it never leaves.
It's still there.
it's still there. Yeah.
All right. Take it easy, and I enjoy your sister station up there. I like the blended thing.
Yeah, the
When you
blended
guys get all
shows. Yes.
together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All
that's
right.
Very good. Thank you so much for
Thank you
Thank you for
calling.
calling.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Very good. Well, that was kind of interesting.
Mhm.
So, what do you know anything about the Uyghurs, the Uyghur population up in northern China?
Not really. Could you explain it?
Well, we only have a couple of minutes left. It's really, I would encourage you to do some research on Uyghurs.
Okay.
But basically, Uyghurs are a ethnic population within China
Okay.
that the Chinese government feels that needs to be more they are actually their religion is Muslim, and although they just practice a very, very quiet form of their Muslim faith, but it's unacceptable to the Chinese government. And so they're forcing marriages, and they're forcing millions of them into concentration camps, and to keep them segregated from the rest of the population. But they're encouraging intermarriage, and then trying to dilute the whole Muslim culture out of the Uyghur population. And I understand they're also harvesting a lot of them, the healthy ones, for their organs while they're still alive, for the sick Chinese that are in the hospital. There's many, many very frightening stories coming out of China regarding that whole issue. So yeah, I'd encourage you to do a little research on that. It's quite stunning.
It seems like quite the topic.
Yes, indeed. Well, it seems as though, speaking of topics, we've managed to work through a few of them anyways. Spent maybe way too much time talking about space.
Yeah, it was still fun though.
But it was good. It was, and a little bit of time which is necessary to talk about the passing of Rush Limbaugh. And we thank you for listening. We thank you for calling. And we look forward to visiting with you again here next week, right here on Treasure Coast Forum.